Hi, so let me tell you about the ANDES Deep Underground Laboratory and two underground mine sites in Argentina. Everything started when we heard about the Agua Negra Tunnel, which was a planned tunnel between Coquimbo and San Juan, so between Argentina and Chile, and the Andes mountain. And it's quite important for the region to be able to cross the Andes for the productive part of the north of Argentina, south of Brazil, which are the two main countries of South America, to be able to export goods to the big Asian market. And Chile has a great infrastructure for that. So it's a very important strategic project for the region. So the idea is to build two long tunnels, 14 kilometers, so that's quite big tunnels. And the deepest point is at 1,750 meters, which is really deep. And this really caught our eye, and it looked like a great opportunity to build a laboratory at the deepest point in the tunnel. The international tender for the tunnel started in January 2013, but the construction has not started yet, and I will talk a bit about that later in my presentation. So this tunnel is really a great opportunity. As you know, laboratories in tunnel can only be constructed when the tunnel is built, so it's really a unique opportunity to construct both a big and a deep laboratory in the southern hemisphere. So this is where the Andes laboratory would be. It would, being in the south, there are a few scientific key points, like having an opposite weather modulation in case of search for dark matter through yearly modulation. It's complementary for supernova neutrino observation, where you want detectors all over the globe. It's a great place for geoneutrinos. It's also geoactive region, so that's maybe not the best thing for us as high energy physicists, but it's very interesting for geophysicists. And so it would be a great place to have an underground geophysics laboratory. And so the idea from the start was not to have a national laboratory hosting international experiments, but to have really an international laboratory. So the idea is to have something like a small CERN, an international consortium which would run the laboratory, maybe like Sesame, the synchrotron that is in Middle East, which would be focused on this underground science. So of course, high energy, which is most of us are doing, but also geoscience, biology, technology, and more. So, and this would really be a world class. So it would be deep and big, and would really be visible in the list of all the underground laboratories in the world. So the scientific program for ANDES is obviously what all the science that can fit in such a big laboratory, a 30 diameter and 30 meter tall pits. So that's a lot of physics, and it includes a lot of multidisciplinary physics, and especially geoscience is a big part. The first proposal we had for the ANDES laboratory when we started in 2011, so 10 years ago, was kind of similar in Gran Sasso for the design, smaller. So this is a tunnel which goes from Chile to Argentina. You would enter the lab, there's a big pit, medium-sized cavern, a big cavern, and then a lot of smaller one. In 2015, we worked with Lombardi, which is a company which did all the design of the tunnel itself, of the Agua Negra tunnel. So this was very important that the laboratory is really integrated in the tunnel. And the idea is that the laboratory would be an option for the construction of the tunnel. So this means we have to deal with ventilation, safety, and all these things are already integrated into the design as part of the tunnel. So there wouldn't be a much lower operation cost to have the laboratory running as it is really totally integrated with the tunnel. So it was very important to work with Lombardi, which was the same company as the tunnel. And so this is the design we had in 2016. So there is still this big pit, the main cavern, a smaller cavern, and then a few other holes. And in 2019, we finished the detailed engineering for the lab, more than 300 pages of documents. And this is the final design, where you still have this big pit, big cavern, intermediate cavern, a lot of small caverns. And then all this portion is new, and this is a geoscience part. So all this part is fully dedicated to geoscience and based on design from some geoscience colleagues. So the cost of the total laboratory is about $73 million. and this is less than 5% of the cost of the total tunnel, 1.5 billion. And so the idea is that it would go as an extra cost within the construction, and so this is what would make it possible. That's a 3D view of some part of the Andes. We did some background studies, so we had some rock samples from the deepest ones from 600 meters, and we analyzed them. The results were quite nice, especially in potassium, which was what we feared we could have. That's quite reasonable, and then we made some measure where we have to put the laboratories and flags, neutron activation. In addition to the lab, we want to support laboratories. So the tunnel itself, I didn't mention it, but it's quite high in altitude, so it's a little below 4,000 meters of altitude in the middle of the mountain. So it's quite remote. And so we decided to have a big support laboratory in La Serena in Chile, which is a very well-connected place. And then to have a closer one, but smaller and maybe more oriented to the technical day-to-day work in Argentina, so that we have two support laboratories, but with different aims for each. And of course, we will integrate on both sides with the local universities, have visitor centers, and all this thing. We have very strong international and institutional support. You get the list of more or less any institution which is related to science in Chile or Argentina. Then a lot of support from international colleagues, and also a lot of letter of support, of interest of people who want to contribute to ANDES and not only find this idea great, but also wants to build something in it. That's a strong support. And with that, we went after our first 3 workshops to the Ministry of Science and Technology in Argentina, and we got approved in March 2012. And at the same time, we also got approved by the EBITAN. The EBITAN is a binational entity, which was approved, created by both Congresses of Argentina and Chile, which is in charge of the tunnel itself. So it's both a technical and a political entity. And so getting the green light from them was really essential to get really started. So then in Mexico, in a workshop, we created the ANDES unit inside the Latin American Center for Physics. So this gave us an official entity in a UNESCO class 2 entity. And this allowed us to then contract Lombardy to make the studies. So all the contracts were signed by the ANDES unit. So in 2016, we got the conceptual design. And based on that, we had a very important scientific workshop in Buenos Aires when we approved this design. And after that, in July 2017, the binational Agua Negra tunnel entity approved ANDES as an additional option to the civil work of the tunnel. So this was very, very nice. And so with that, we could obtain $500,000 of financing for the detailed engineering study from the San Juan province. And in 2019, we finished the study. And so now we have everything ready for ANDES to be part of the construction of the Agua Negra tunnel. And it would take about 8 years to be constructed. We got support from the Latin American Strategic Forum for Research Infrastructure. So this was this an effort which started a few years ago, and last year in October 2020, they made a strategic document. This is a kind of a roadmap for the high energy and cosmology and astroparticle physics community in Latin America. And in the strategic document, there are 10 recommendations. The second one is to go forward and build ANDES. Actually, it's the only project which is explicitly mentioned in the 10 recommendations. So that's really the flagship for the region. So it has a very strong support in the region. Now, of course, we can only build ANDES if the Agua Negra tunnel is built. And while everything went very well up to 2017, in 2017, the project was frozen. And this comes from the fact that this Agua Negra tunnel was never as strongly supported in Chile as in Argentina. And when in Argentina, the government changed and did not support at the national level so strongly the tunnel. In 2018, Chile took the opportunity to officially stopped supporting the Agua Negra tunnel project. And then at the end of 2019, when in Argentina, there was again a change of government, and the government again started to support strongly the tunnel. It was not the right time in Chile. You might remember there were some national protests, which well, complicated the situation. And then in 2020, we all know what happened with the coronavirus. And so basically, we are waiting for next election in November in Chile. Hopefully, the new national direction in Chile will see the tunnel as something useful for their country, and then we could go forward with the tunnel and with ANDES. And this is considered kind of a selling point for the tunnel. They are arguing within the evidence that they should build the tunnel because there will be ANDES. So it's very nice for us, of course, and this gives us a strong confidence that if the tunnel can be built, then we will have ANDES. So meanwhile, we've been working in the last 10 years in other laboratories, in other experiments, moving our community, which is mostly cosmic ray based, to underground physics. And we've been looking at 2 mines to have sites before we get ANDES to install prototypes and to start doing real physics in the region, real underground physics in the region. And one is Minacas Pozo, which is in San Juan, the same province of Agua Negra Tunnel, which is there. So it's very nice because it's the same place. So we have the same local support, and we are in an exploratory phase with the mine. Actually, today we have a meeting. Today, as I record this talk, we have a meeting with them, and we plan to install an underground muon there, muon detector. And then there is Sierra Grande mine here in Rio Negro, which is close to Bariloche, which is where I live and where we have our science group. It was a site of a dark matter experiment in the 90s, and we have an agreement with the mine management to come back and to install an experiment there, and we hope to install a dark matter experiment very soon. So just a couple of slides of each of them. So Minacas Pozo, it's an horizontal access mine. You can get by car to potential site up to 300 meter deep. And we don't know exactly where right now, and so that's the thing we are discussing with the mine management in these days. And the idea is to install a muon telescope, which are XY planes, which allow to reconstruct the direction of the muons, and do some muon tomography, which could be useful maybe for the mining itself. And this is based on design of detectors we have for the PROG Observatory muon detectors underground. And then for Sierra Grande, so it's a mine which is at 441 degrees of latitude south, which is the ideal latitude to get daily modulation dark matter signal. It's 400 meter deep. And this is where in the 90s, there was a small laboratory operated with an experiment from Frank et al. So here are the few papers that they got. So it was a germanium detector with a threshold of a few kilo electron volts. And so the idea is to go back to the same place. So this is us at this place. You may guess here on the ground the place where the container was 25 years ago. There is nothing left from this experiment. So the idea is to move there, a Skipper CCD experiment to search for this daily modulation and take advantage of a threshold more than 1,000 times lower than the previous experiment. There is a presentation by Nicolas Avalos on that. You can look at it on YouTube, and the discussion panel will be the day after the discussion panel on this session. So to conclude, we all know here that underground laboratory science is at the frontier, and I really believe there is a unique opportunity to build ANDES as a world-class underground laboratory, which is open to the whole community. So it's an international consortium that is going to run ANDES. And I really hope that in maybe 10 years, we can organize a TAUP conference in Argentina and have all of you come and visit ANDES while it's being constructed. Thank you very much.